What's up, nerds, and welcome back to the Overwatch League Network YouTube channel. I'm Totally Drunk, and I'm here today to talk about the top teams out of both North America and APAC following a Week 3 of the Overwatch League season. Now, NA, for the most part, has been holding up fairly well outside of these bubble teams who are barely making it into the top 5. Let's talk about the 5th-ranked team, who have dipped one spot, that being the Washington Justice, who unfortunately suffered a very bad loss against the Boston Uprising following some recent roster changes, and also changes to their starting lineup. And I know for the most part, when you look at the top teams in NA right now, they have all kind of suffered a pretty bad loss over the course of the season, outside of the Shock, who remain undefeated. Now, that being said, the Justice, unfortunately, just could not get a whole lot of value from the Winston play this week, which also meant that the DPS duo also fell pretty silent. But for the most part, Justice still looking like a decent team. They should still be able to perform at a high level. But I didn't give them the nod over who they swapped places with, primarily just because I enjoyed the changes that we saw out of the Atlanta Reign camp in Week 3. Now, Atlanta has definitely been adjusting after the, Doomfist compositions haven't really been as prominent on the NA side of things. And, yeah, I know, some other teams were also experimenting with it because, Titans didn't really know what else to do at this point since literally nothing has worked. But we finally got to see Gator play for the Atlanta Reign. So we're getting to see some more looks. And this is a team who typically performs better in a LAN environment or a tournament structure, and I feel like right now the iron is hot for the Reign to at least give them the edge over the Justice. But, there are other bubble teams right now who we also got to see better things from. That would also include the Houston Outlaws, but not quite cracking the top 5. But who knows? The Outlaws really aren't in any danger of missing out on the kickoff clash. Coming in at number 3 again, we have the Los Angeles Gladiators, who suffered another reverse sweep. Very unfortunate. Not quite Gladiators level as of yet. And I know Glads fans are just looking at this and being like, man, we can't seem to take this one home. But guys, don't worry. You were taking the best teams in NA to the limit. It's just a matter of closing the deal. And, you guys have been bringing in different looks with your DPS duo. Patapan was back in Week 3. It looked a hell of a lot better than what we saw during his debut in Week 1. And for the most part, the Glads are still looking like a very solid team who really aren't in any trouble right now of, losing momentum or anything like that. So, heads up high, Glads, shields up. This is not going to be the end of the world. But, it's just a rough stretch in, the middle of the NA schedule for the kickoff clash. But this team can easily rebound come tournament phase. Back in at number 2, we have the Dallas Fuel, who continue to be the aggressors with these Zarya compositions. And the Fuel substituted quite a bit this week. We got to see some of the more rookie players stepping in and getting some reps in, which is always important to see, just to give you more options heading into the tournament phase. And the Fuel still looking like they are the best Zarya team, maybe in the Overwatch League, but definitely over on the NA side of things. But there might be a very intriguing team over at APAC that might edge them out in that regard, but I'll talk about that here in just a bit. Which leads us to the top spot, reclaimed by the San Francisco Shock, who did complete the reverse sweep after going down 0-2 against the LA Gladiators. And I know, guys, everyone was looking at this match, everyone was hyped, as they should have been, but everyone was like, well, how can Shock be the top team when they haven't really played anyone? Well, doubters, there you have it. The Shock are arguably the best team in the Overwatch League, but definitely the best team out of NA right now. And, the rookie players for the Shock continue to show up and show out until someone says otherwise. So all in all, everything is looking pretty solid out of San Fran so far this season. But there's another team full of rookies who have looked arguably just as good, who also could walk out of APAC undefeated headed into the tournament phase. And speaking of APAC, let's talk about the top four. I really didn't know what to do with the APAC rankings, primarily the cutoff point, because there are only 7 teams compared to 13 over in NA. So I'm like, you know what? We'll cut it straight down the middle, or as middle as you can. So I did 4, 3, 2, and 1. So let's jump into this. So coming in at number 4, probably a big surprise for people, the Shanghai Dragons. Now, guys, I know this is kind of a weird start for the Shanghai Dragons. They've looked fairly middle of the pack, and that's where I left them so far. Now, I think we all kind of had set expectations for how Void was going to perform on the Zarya, and we have not been met with the expectations as of yet. But this is definitely one of those teams who could easily climb the ranks, so I'm not too worried about them yet. So it's still too early to hit the panic button if you're the Shanghai Dragons. Just been 1 week. Obviously, we got quite a bit of games this week. They have 4 games to play in the course of 4 games. Same with the Philadelphia Fusion. And I don't think they're going to be one of the teams in danger of not making the cutoff for the tournament phase. So far, not the performance we expected, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. That being said, let's talk about the number 3 team and one of the bigger surprises, the Hangzhou Spark. Now, the Spark Zarya composition's looking arguably just as good as the Dallas Fuel, which I cannot believe I'm saying. But then you have the other side of the coin, and that's when Hangzhou is like, you know what? Let's run Diva. What? What is up with APAC and, like, these really obscure picks that we're just not seeing over in NA? Like, constantly running, like, Ashe, we saw a good mix of Sombra, Hanzo, you name it, they probably played it. Hell, we even saw a little bit of Torbjorn. Not that too many people were expecting that either. But the Spark, as long as they stick to their guns and they try to just maintain that sort of momentum with the Zarya compositions, I feel like they could easily sneak into the number 2 spot. But for now, questionable swaps aside, Spark are looking pretty solid, and they have not been substituting a whole lot, despite the fact that they have an extremely bloated roster. So I was happy to see that everything has been short, it's been concise, and the Spark looking like a pretty good team after their first week of action in week 3. Moving into the number 2 slot, we have the Seoul Dynasty, and bias? Absolutely. No one is going to look at this and be too surprised by the fact that I put them above the Spark, if only because I am a soulmate. So they know better by now. Now, that being said, the reason why I put the Dynasty at number 2 after week 3 is the simple fact that you have a solo tank who has actually looked pretty good on a multitude of different heroes, which was a very big surprise for me. Now, Smurf, over time, over the course of the week, looked a lot better, and it just felt like the more reps he got in, the better he was going to end up being, and that's a very good sign for the Seoul Dynasty. Now, does that mean that the Dynasty are clear-cut favorites right now? I don't think so, especially with how good the Spark looked with their Zarya compositions. But, you know, for the most part, the Dynasty have looked pretty solid, despite the fact that they've had quite a few competitive matches already. But they've been coming out on top, which is a good sign for them moving forward. But they're not quite at the level of what we saw out of the Philadelphia Fusion. And I know, guys, they only had 2 matches. Fusion are the other team outside of the Dragons who compete 4 times between Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But these rookies are arguably on the same level that what we have seen from the San Francisco Shock, if not better. Which is absolutely crazy to think about. And I know, I didn't really know what to expect from this team. And it just seems like I don't want to be like, oh my god, Fusion the best team in the Overwatch League. But right now, guys, it's looking like that could potentially be the case. And honestly, the Fusion might be the only team out of APAC that I would even put in the top 5 in combined rankings so far. Now, are the Fusion going to be able to maintain that momentum and secure the top seed? We'll find out, because trying to cram in 4 games and the amount of prep that takes is a lot of work, but I would imagine it also means that we're not going to be seeing a ton of different looks from the Fusion, just knowing that they are basically running a marathon in week 4 to try to secure the top seed headed into the kickoff clash. But so far, Fusion rookies looking absolutely dominant, dunking on the competition, coming out absolutely pulverizing the Dragons in a 3-0 win to kick off APAC. And I know a lot of people really were not expecting that, but for the most part, Fusion looking like they are going to be the team to beat over in APAC. And with the way they're playing, it seems like almost a given that they're going to be the kickoff Clash champions. But only time is going to tell. Now, that being said, guys, I want to thank everyone who's been checking out all of the rankings over on our YouTube channel. I know Spider is still finalizing his first impressions from the Overwatch 2 PvP beta. And unfortunately, I'm out this week. I'm in Las Vegas Tuesday through Tuesday. So you're not going to see me on the recap episode, but I'll be previewing what I can before I fly out on Tuesday. But until then, I hope everyone enjoys week 4 of the Overwatch League. Don't forget to submit your picks for the pick'ems and see if you can do better than I've been. I'm still maintaining my, top 1,000, and who knows? If things align perfectly with the crystal ball picks, I can make up a ton of points in that regard, and so can you. So don't forget to submit everything there. But until then, I'll see you in Discord, and I'll see you back next week.